Social Justice Goblin, welcome to the backyard as I Bailey pop this! Bright light in the side. I love Bailey. Bailey's heel turn. So epic. Alright. So, I was thinking, because when you study the history of professional wrestling, it's taught from an American history perspective. They talk about, the early origin going all the way back to Lincoln, tying the NWA, the creation, the carny atmosphere that it evolved out of, going from like guys really wrestling and fighting. I mean, they actually did have professional fighters. I mean, a lot of these guys were good fighters. And then that product as a sport, it was sold as a sport. So everyone claims that the birthplace of professional wrestling is a unique United States of America or unique America. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Uniquely USA made product. But I argue it is a uniquely North American product because it was developed across three countries: Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. Because Mexico, it has a very unique style, and Puerto Rico has a unique style, and every territory had their unique style, but Mexican wrestling is something different. I remember reading articles explaining what Mexican wrestling was about back when Newsnet was around and Pro Wrestling. One of the facts talked about Mexican wrestling, and just like with the little people and the masks and and then you got to see it coming in to through the WCW, and you're like, this stuff is amazing. This is all the stuff I've heard of. And then I moved to Texas and I saw the real McCoy, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So so that begs the question then: did Mexican wrestling evolve separately and focus more on being an entertainment product versus the U.S. product and Canada product, which focused on being a sport? So, were the Mexicans inspired by the U.S.? This is an interesting question of history in wrestling. It's a very deep, poignant one that I would say. And I mean, you could, I don't have the history knowledge like some wrestling historians have. I mean, I'm sure a wrestling historian could sit down and research and explain, did the U.S. inspire Mexico, or did Mexico evolve on its own? Because wrestling was huge in Mexico in the 50s and 60s. I mean, Santito, he's legendary. And I mean, the masks, all that, like when they took off Rey Mysterio's mask, oh my God, did I get upset, because you don't take a man, in Lucha Libre, that mask means everything to that guy. He's a masked wrestler. That's just the way it is. That's why I don't have a problem with Excalibur in AEW. He's just playing the Mexican masked wrestler, But to someone like Jim Cornette, it looks ridiculous. It's almost like Jim hasn't studied Mexican wrestling. Or at least he's tried. He's just like, I can't. But Mexican wrestling is definitely influencing American wrestling now as we move more into an entertainment style wrestling. We're going to see, AEW, it's about inclusivity. It's about kind of taking that Mexican flavor and bringing it its time with an American twist, obviously. Because, I'm sorry, with talent that just I'm sorry. Darby Allin's just not believable to an American. I mean, obviously the WWE's not playing nice and holding, like guys like Zack Ryder who would just dominate in that field, or Kurt Hawkins. But they're getting over talent that, Jericho's getting talent over. And they're getting talent over. Just in a different way. I mean, and it's interesting to wonder. And that's a history point question I have. Did the U.S. inspire Mexican wrestling? Or did Mexican wrestling evolve from its own roots and slowly became a legend in the upper echelons of wrestling fandom in the U.S.? Because, this was like Mexican wrestling was the thing to see. And then realizing when I got to Texas, I can see it. And it's his own beast. I'm sorry. I was like going, did he when they come in teams of 4 and all 4 of them jump on top of the guy, they pile up, and I'm like, was that did that count? Oh, okay, no. Oh, okay. Jericho is, wow, that guy's really good. Who the heck is that guy? Man. There's a style to it. It's entertainment. And it's really entertaining. And, I have to wonder if, I have to wonder that divergent point in history. Did Japanese wrestling, because Japanese wrestling, there's like the 3 Meccas. Japanese wrestling was definitely inspired by U.S. based wrestling. It had to be. But it's his own beast. And Mexican wrestling, that's an interesting wrestling history question. Because you can tell the difference between two products. One is meant to be entertainment, pure and simple, and the other is to make it look like a sport. Those are the 2 choices you have with wrestling. I don't know. It's an interesting history point and an interesting history question. And you've got to check out Lucha Libre. It's on Telemundo, I believe. And it's worth checking out. I mean, it's, or just see that it's amazing. It's like seeing art in a whole new way. And it's just such a different boundary, and it's such a unique style. And it's just fascinating, and it has me asking that history question. What's the history of Mexican wrestling? Was it inspired by US based wrestling, or was it always a focus of being entertainment?